Back to the North American Challenger League. I am Rapid alongside Studio, and we're underway with our first game of the night here in Week 3, Day 3 of NACL. It's going to be in Napkins in Disguise, featuring Chaox as the sub for Flappy Bearfish. They're going to be coming out in the upper right-hand corner of your map in the red, going up against Gold Gaming Los Angeles, who do have a sub of their own in their previous roster's jungler in Wappa Chang.
Invade coming out from Napkins in Disguise. They will spot out Wappa with that standard saying, hey, we're coming in here, we're going to get some wards down, and you guys cannot stop us. Both sides have possibilities for level 1. At the same time, it is much weaker for ggLA to really engage, rather than for Napkins in Disguise, who do have the possibility of a Dark Flight from Aatrox, a hook from Gleebglarbu. They have a lot to set up an early fight, so it's not surprising to see ggLA just back off and play relatively safely, relatively passively.
First spear of the game lands on the Bischu. He's going to have to take a trip back to base. Very limited early deep warding out from NID up in the top lane. They do ward out the blue buff and look to rotate around for a deep red buff ward. This is not the standard level 1 that we'd expect from NID. Usually they'll go for the double red buff ward or just a blue buff invade. Not both of them at the same time, but with wards on both buffs. For ggLA, they're going to have to play it a little bit more carefully because NID will know exactly what their starting level 1 is going to be.
NID are actually going to make a tiny mistake. Jarvan's cast a lot of standards in this first invade, so he's at about half mana. He's going to start red buff, and this means that when he actually gets to the blue buff camp, he might be out of mana, or it will just slow down his jungle because he can't use any of his skills. His Dragon Strike and standard combo is going to just take too much. So kind of funny to see that happening. It's an odd twist, and it will set him behind a tiny bit, but he should be able to recover fairly quickly, as Aatrox actually being forced out of the wolf pit by NydusHerMain, going forward to level 1 Sona.
Nydus is all by himself, I guess. He's Nydusing not only her man, but also the wolf camp. He's literally 1v1ing InnoX in the jungle. Now InnoX actually sicking the wolf onto Nydus, who will get slowed out there, taking him down to about half HP. InnoX did start with Blades of Torment, so there's no Dark Flight in there to stop Nydus. Nydus all alone on his own half of the map right now, with Otter down in the bottom lane CSing, and that's going to stop InnoX from doing the wolf camp before going into a 1v2. Just a brilliant level 1 knowledge there by ggLA, having Nydus single-handedly control an entire quarter of the map.
The issue with that is Thresh, in the meantime, teamed up with Jarvan to shut down Wappa at the blue buff. So they were able to shut down a little bit of InnoX's farm, but the farm you get as a top laner trying to pick up, the wolves in a 1v2 situation is more for the added bonus rather than for the necessity. But now Wappa's lacking his blue buff. They do send NydusHerMain to help secure the blue buff on the Napkins in Disguise side of the map, and it looks like it will actually be a 1-for-1 trade. That could have ended pretty poorly, though, if Wappa had not been able to pick up that second blue buff. Because if not, he would be very far behind Jarvan. Jarvan could go for the ganks, and Wappa would not be at that level in both mana and level to actually gank as Elise.
Something to notice, his first gank of the game happened as ScubaChris, the jungler and sub for X-Duris Gloria, and XDG is going to come through the mid lane. Didn't blow a flash out of Bischu, is very calm and reserved and walking away from that one. Now he's going to return to the bottom lane, knows that InnoX needs some help. He's level 2, forcing the flash out of Otter. Slow will land, Ignite is out. Otter's going to go down here, can't get away. And it's first blood by ScubaChris, who will force out another flash from Nydus after just auto-attacking once to apply the red buff.
Otter getting a bit too brave. The Valkyrie just not quite enough to save him. The Dark Flight from Aatrox is such a good initiation tool, and once he gets in the melee range, it's so much DPS, especially coming out at this point in the game. The problem Otter had is that he was trying to be forward, trying to zone out InnoX, and just didn't respect the fact that Jarvan was in the area and very easily could have set up that kill. So just a little bit too much disrespect, a little bit too much casual play from Otter. That's a huge setup now, because now InnoX is going to have a lot more to sustain within the bot lane. Jarvan ganks are much more terrifying. The 6CS Jarvan is not behind, and that's the scary thing actually, as they're diving the tower, trying to pick up NydusHerMain now.
They're going to go in there. There's the Valkyrie in from Otter, who is there just in time to save NydusHerMain from having her man Nydus. And as the bot dual lane here for NID and InnoX and ScubaChris actually camping out the bottom brush, just waiting for the lane to push. They will have to wait for a decent amount of time. It is shoved pretty far into the turret. But in the meantime, we should take a look at the dual lane for NID. Top lane, it's Chaox and Gleebglarbu. It's a pretty standard way to play Caitlyn. You go into 2v1, you push down the turret early. Nydus in the bottom lane, though, will go down after the bush bait is successful. Now ScubaChris onto Otter, trying to body block for InnoX, but his health potion ticking saves his life, well, saves his passive, rather. Allows him to back off with that intact.
And as all this goes on, Yazuki just up in the top lane, trying to see us underneath his own turret. I love what's coming out of Napkins in Disguise. They have really good initiation from Aatrox and really good follow-up from Jarvan. And the armor penetration, or the armor shred that comes from Jarvan's Dragon Strike, just sets up so much DPS with Aatrox being a physical character himself. So they have a lot of burst damage, they have a lot of CC, and at this point in the game, you know, a level 3 Sona, a level 4 Corky just can't survive that incredibly damaging combo. And they're just not respecting the fact that this is a duo that can actually get kills. They're laning the jungler, which is not unheard of at this point. The meta's kind of started to become that actually. It's actually Bischu taking nubbypoohbear down very low in the mid lane. But by duoing the bot lane, it secures farm, and now it's securing kills. This is not unheard of, but it's definitely not that common.
This would be ScubaChris forced to flash on Bischu. Just a clear standard combo there. Bischu will be forced to flash. Probably could have gotten away, but it would have been extremely risky. So blowing the flash, just keeping himself safe in lane. He is level 6 and still hasn't gone back to base. And as a mid laner, if you can make it to that level 6, you've kind of done your job. You've probably gotten a decent amount of CS, and especially for Bischu, a solid 10 CS ahead makes it back to base in time to pick up both boots and a Chalice of Harmony.
Unfortunately, nubbypoohbear did hit level 6 himself, which gives a lot of powers. Aatrox is back in the bot lane. They're just not going to give any free time to Otter down there. You can see the CS advantage, and Caitlyn now has 10 CS. You can see the overall CS advantage isn't there for Yazuki. Even though he's been farming underneath the turret, the backup from ScubaChris means that InnoX is just kind of picking up what he can, because the threat of a Jarvan standard combo is just that large, that they're not hard denying InnoX.
And you could tell that Otter's had a little bit of a problem dealing with InnoX's Aatrox in the bottom lane. It's kind of a paradox to him so far, if you want to continue with that. But as far as the rest of the X's, Chaox, for NID has actually been doing a really good job in his 2v1. You can see a 10 CS developed there, as well as a BF sword on his first trip back to base, whereas Otter's starting out with double Dorans.
Now they're going for the matchup. This is a scary moment for InnoX because Yazuki of top lane can actually deal with Aatrox very well. Aatrox is a very auto attack based champion. He does have decent burst from his ultimate and a dark flight combination, but Yazuki, he has a wither, and if he activates it at the right time, there goes InnoX's damage. It's actually Jarvan going for a gank up here. Yazuki's in a lot of danger.
Yeah, Yazuki is going to pop Ghost and the ultimate, but he's going to be running really fast in a circle, and Wild Dogs are pretty good at that. He's going to try to get away, slowed out by the Blades of Torment, take him down, and give InnoX his second kill of the game.
No respect for Jarvan this game. Yazuki just a bit too far forward. When InnoX walked forward and didn't and played aggressively, that was a sign for him to retreat, but the timing was solid from InnoX. By the time Yazuki knew to retreat, by the time the sign was there that it was a gank, ScubaChris was already in position to land a Cataclysm and deny that Ghost. ScubaChris also taking the blue buff. This is huge because now that's Bischu losing control, that's Wappa losing experience, but this will actually be a blue buff steal for a blue buff steal, as both mid laners will be lacking a blue buff, which is a bigger deal for Nidalee in terms of harass and a bigger deal for Orianna. It's actually now Yazuki one more time.
And no Ghost, there's no ultimate from ScubaChris and no mana either, but with the Dark Flight in there and red buff applied, Yazuki teleports back into lane just to die.
He does die, but at what cost will that gank be? Because there is a dragon attempt coming out from ggLA. They need to pick this up. They're behind by about 1,500 gold. This will even that out more or less, and there is not a Jarvan in the area to pick up that kill, pick up that dragon. Bischu taken low by a spear, but they will secure this.
Now, ggLA have to get out if you're alive. There's going to be top turret traded out there. Nydus is going to go down. nubbypoohbear is going to pounce his way on in there. Shield from the dark passageway. Going to clear up Chaox, but he doesn't even get a chance to throw down the ace in the hole because a perfect spear by nubbypoohbear's Nidalee will secure that kill. There's going to be a trap on a Bischu. Command Shockwave does not go down, but Bischu does. And in a complete rout, Napkins in Disguise strategically ahead over the course of the entire game. Now I had 7 kills off of the kill on a Bischu.
That dragon was actually still a safe dragon. The problem was when the team tried to disperse, when they picked up the dragon kill and got out of there, they all split up. This meant that the Sona Corky combination walked into Thresh, walked into Caitlyn. All of a sudden, nubbypoohbear closed in on them, and it was a 3v2 when the team had been grouped up seconds earlier. Like, the dragon pickup is nice, but when you retreat out of that pit, you got to make sure you have the proper escape, you have the proper tools to get out of there. 2 turrets going down, now a 3-0 turret advantage. Napkins in disguise ahead by 4.7k. Like, Chaox has been doing what an AD carry should be this game. He's been farming up, backing up his team when necessary, and I gotta say that is just a ticking time bomb to the fact that InnoX has just been completely dominating the early game, along with ScubaChris.
As an AD carry, it doesn't really matter if your first column is zeros, as long as your second column is zeros too. And for Chaox, that's exactly what he's been doing. He's been staying in lane, staying alive, and keeping up his CS. Now about 15 to 20 ahead, depending on whether or not he's going to finish CSing that lane, and he will decide to take a little bit of a break before going back. Otter Knight is putting on a little bit of pressure bottom lane, but it's really been ScubaChris over the course of most of this game. You can see 5 out of 7 of the kills that have come so far for NID he has been involved in, and with an early Oracle's bot around the 10-minute mark, he is gonna be looking to alleviate a lot of that map vision across there for NID.
Tiamat now finished on InnoX. This gives them a lot of wave clear. This gives them a lot of ways to actually harass Yazuki if they do decide to land against each other. And of course, their early burst damage in his combo is nothing to forget about. Now, what's funny about this matchup is you can see that ScubaChris has gone aggressively for just counter jungling and invading and ganks because he only has 31 CS, and it's kind of been the same deal with Wappa. The problem is for Wappa, there's just been so few opportunities. Like, InnoX is up top lane. Wappa can still engage on this, but they have to deal with the Dark Flight. Can they get the Wither?
There's going to be the Cocoon attempt onto InnoX, but you can see he actually blew a preemptive flash, just wanted to stay alive. Pretty good gank there off of a pink board placement, so denying that vision working out very well for ggLA, but forcing a flash still doesn't make their kill column go up, whereas most of ScubaChris's ganks to the top lane, just reflected in the death column in Yazuki, have been successful. So we have flash forced out from Bischu in the middle lane, non-stop action, the dunk onto Bischu. Nubby was gonna jump in there, but there's actually command shockwave to pull ScubaChris back in. It's nubbypoohbear jumping back in there. ScubaChris stays alive, gets taken out by the Venomous Bite. There's Nydus to help out Wappa, who cannot chase onto nubbypoohbear. Meanwhile, in the top lane, the action continues, and Nox getting the Dark Flight, knocking up Yazuki, taking him down with a massacre aptly named as he picks up Napkins in Disguise's 9th kill of the game. Nubby on a rampage, continuing to get spears off onto Nydus. Does not keep up the chase. We'll back on off for now, but now it's Otter about to get flanked from around the turret by nubbypoohbear. Gleebglarbu coming down as well. Otter is in a little bit of a rough spot right now.
Oh, dodges that rough spot by a tiny bit with the Valkyrie. That means his escape is down, though. That means that he has to be incredibly defensive now, just because if they do catch him off out of position, he has no escape besides nothing, actually. He only has a barrier available. Aatrox now pushing mid lane, bot lane being pushed at the same time. Just pressure non-stop as Chaox just going to send a last little headshot to just deny that comfortable defensive position from ggLA. InnoX not being stopped mid lane either. Yazuki shows up and he's just doing nothing. He does not have the siphoning strike stacks. He does not have the items to really deal with InnoX right now.
In case you guys had never played Nasus versus an Aatrox, it kind of goes in the favor of Aatrox, especially early on, because you have a little bit more mobility and initiation. You can see that really helping kind of solidify the wombo combo between InnoX and ScubaChris that was so effective at limiting the early game for Yazuki. But for now, AD carries solo in the bottom lane. It's a 4v4 up around the blue buff, taken away by ScubaChris. He will back on off of there. There's the dark passageway over the blue buff wall to give Gleebglarbu another one of his souls. He's sitting at 40 so far. And while we're talking about stacks, Yazuki up at 96 stacks on Siphoning Strike.
At 96 stacks is not a good number of Siphoning Strike stacks. He was in a 1v2 lane. He, of course, was pressured quite a bit afterwards, so it's understandable. But Nasus isn't a character that can as easily get back into a game as someone else. He can't just get gold. He needs to also get the Siphoning Strike stacks, which means just a time investment. You can't invest kills, you can't just get assists, you can't just get a little bit of farm. You have to be up in the top lane, in the bot lane, split pushing, farming up that queue for minutes at a time to really get back into this game. So this was a huge play from Napkins in Disguise in terms of lane placement. I like that they did put Aatrox in the bot lane. You mentioned that Nasus usually loses to Aatrox. He can do very specific things that completely counter out Aatrox in lane, but only early on, and only if Aatrox doesn't have an advantage. And the Wither does not matter because InnoX is doing so much damage in that Dark Flight initiation that Yazuki's dying before he can trade and before he can sustain back. Like, that's how far ahead InnoX got in this matchup. And to set that up required so many ganks, so much map control from ScubaChris. I love what Napkins and this guys did this to essentially nullify the Nasus for the first 30 minutes of the game.
And things that Napkins in Disguise do includes Dragons. We'll look for another one. As soon as it respawns, it's taken down, and that's ScubaChris with the kill. He also has, besides the Oracles, the completed Spirit of the Ancient Golem, and while you do see that item onto Wappa Chang, so much of an advantage from ScubaChris just off of kill participation. The only kill for ggLA has come onto Wappa, so that's a point of strength for him. But with every single one of the rest of his laners dying, there's only so much a jungler can carry.
And that is the difference between aggressive Jarvan and aggressive Elise. Aggressive Elise is solid early on, but a little bit less reliable. It's easier to react to an Elise stun and flash it, as we saw top lane from InnoX, than it is to flash the Jarvan combo, just because it comes out so fast, and if it's coming out of the brush, it's almost impossible to react to.
Bischu can dodge the death sentences, but he cannot dodge the spear. And right as I say that, he does dodge one, but taking one away. He does have a little bit of extra magic resistance from the Fiend's own Holy Grail. But as the siege continues, the incredible poke from both Chaox and nubbypoohbear is just going to be a little bit too rough of a storm to weather. Spear lands onto Otter, taking him down below half HP. And while Nydus offers sustain, you can't sustain through Nidalee spears that continue to land.
Oh, Otter going down low if he blocks that. Actually, the flash comes in for Gleebglarbu.
That's going to be crescendo, but it's not in time. Dunks on to Nydus, forcing out an immediate flash. Otter's out of there too. The dive behind the turret secures the turret kill for the 4th turret in a row for Napkins in Disguise.
Top lane Yazuki going for this fight. nubbypoohbear is cut out by an Elise stun, but Yazuki, he's just by his turret, pinched off. Can he escape this?
And InnoX is looking to escape it via Dark Passageway shield. Keeps him alive. Probably would have sustained through that as well, but with the 5th turret now coming down, everything falling apart here. It's 17 minutes into the game, and ggLA, keep in mind, coming off of a win against To Be Determined, now not looking all that strong as the death sentence aptly named, taking out NydusHerMain. Spear lands onto Wappa. He's going to repel a little bit too late there, and ggLA just cannot secure anything outside their base.
It's the advantage. We saw that push come out from Napkins in Disguise earlier. They just kept tossing spears, and Bischu dodged some, Bischu got hit by others. It doesn't really matter how many he dodges, as long as 1 or 2 hit, and that's all it takes, especially with how well nubbypoohbear is doing this game, to make a dive like that viable. Like, that was an aggressive flash from Thresh underneath a tier 2 turret at the 17-minute mark. He was still level 9, and that was still a successful gank, a successful dive, just because they have so much pressure coming out from nubbypoohbear. They have so much pressure coming out from the possible CC of ScubaChris that they were actually able to go for an aggressive dive like that. It's cool to see that happen. It's not common to see that happen, and I really like seeing Napkins in Disguise going all in for their aggression. They know how strong they are right now. They know how much damage Nidalee spears are doing, and they know how quickly they can dive these turrets. For ggLA, they need to farm, but there's no chance for them to farm. All their lanes are being pushed in. The Chaox is in danger bot lane.
He's gonna get jumped on there by Otter. The flash in from Bischu is not gonna be enough. Otter needs another rocket to land. It does. Find Chaox in the bottom lane, but now it's Otter saving Private Otter behind enemy lines. He's gonna hit the back button, and it looks like he should make it out in time. So nice dive there, working out for ggLA, but at what cost? I mean, Otter, he's forced out of lane, even though he did pick up a kill, and that's nice. We'll allow him to finish his Trinity Force. He doesn't have boots, he doesn't have anything else, and now Bischu gonna dodge away from his spear. Up a little bit of a slow, there's the shield, but low on mana. He's gonna try to avoid this matchup against nubbypoohbear. Just needs one more auto attack and pounces to take out Bischu behind his turret at the blue buff.
And what did they really get for that kill onto Chaox? They got a little bit of damage onto the turret, but their creep wave wasn't really there, so they didn't apply that much pressure. Now they lost the blue buff, they're still being pressured mid lane. Yazuki actually could have been initiated on right there, and actually getting initiated on right now.
There's gonna be the death sentence. Box is out there. Yazuki nowhere to go, no flash as well. A cocoon will miss. Wappa not able to get there in time to save out Yazuki. The immobility of Nasus, we saw it early on when he got dunked by Jarvan for the first time, was just stuck running around in circles in that Cataclysm, and this exact same thing there, just no mobility to escape that, and really that is sort of the old school way of Nasus versus the new school. A lot of mobility from Nidalee, from Aatrox, Jarvan. We've seen just NID all over the map so early on, and Command Shockwave completely whiffing. Now Wappa in the middle of the team. Otter staying alive, dishing out the damage, but cannot escape any longer. Is gonna Valkyrie away. Now be dropping down dangerously though, gets saved by his shield there from the dark passageway. Hook goes out, misses on to Otter. Nydus is gonna back off as well. Backline duo lane is still alive for ggLA, but they cannot stop their first inhibitor. They're going down a spear.
Can't stop the other though.
Adding insult to injury, and now ScubaChris going back and on to Nydus. There's the ace in the hole, not necessary, as Chaox will take out NydusHerMain to complete NID's 17th kill of the game.
Yazuki going aggressive. I think he's realized the position his team is in. He's just going for a 1v5 at this point. The 1v5 not going to work out as surrender vote does come out. We have passed the 20-minute mark with a 2-18 score in favor of Napkins in disguise. Congratulations to NID because they were just in control of this game. I'm a little sad, Rapid. We didn't really get to see Chaox in action that game.
He did finish the game with a score of 3-1-4, so a positive contribution nonetheless. But when your top and mid are 5-0-6 and 8-0-4, deathless between InnoX and nubbypoohbear, you know something else is going right for NID and ggLA. Maybe it was off of Wappa as a sub for Corky, but really the rest of the roster having a lot of issues that we didn't really see yesterday as they were able to take out TBD.
Sometimes you got a rough game, sometimes you got a great game. That was ScubaChris and InnoX completely in control so early on and just snowballed from there as other lanes eventually reaped the fruit that is a Jarvan getting successful ganks off at the 2 and 3 minute mark. You know, it's kind of sad to see such a hard loss come out from ggLA after their domination over TBD, but it happens. And you know, they had a sub. When it comes to Corky, like you mentioned, Corky isn't necessarily a star player. Like you don't think of him being the big guy in charge, but he helps support the lanes. He helps keep Yazuki and Otter with their momentum. He helps keep them going. It did not happen this game. It'll be cool to see this rematch though happen again with NID and ggLA.